everyone. This is Dr. Russ Jones.
And Brad Kennan.
We are wide open. How are you, my friend?
Doing fine. So I almost forget how to do this because we're a little off on our schedule because we had somebody cancel and we kind of got delayed.
Yeah.
So that gave me time to get some new t-shirts in for us. Look at that. You can
wide open research with the two Bigfoot with the mic. I like that.
Yep.
What color are you out there?
I'm the tall one. I have a green one, but I figure if I wore green, I would blend into the background. You won't be able to see. So
yeah, I like it, man. That looks cool.
Yep. So anyway, we got these coming up for our new okay, sorry.
It's okay.
So that's it.
You're going to do for the expedition, or not the expedition, but the Ohio.
The Ohio Bigfoot Conference. I figured, we need something to let us stand out from the crowd.
Okay. In case you're wondering, I feel like a freaking champion today. I was in the woods. I have not been in the woods lately. And you know what I found in the woods today?
Nothing.
One mushroom.
That's it.
One mushroom. I went to a place. It's a mile uphill, straight uphill. And then I had to walk maybe another mile to get to this place. And I found last few years, several hundred mushrooms there. And today I found one, but I think it's a little dry. So maybe if we get some rain, I can get back in there and look again.
Okay.
And another thing that I found today was I have 9 freaking cameras, maybe 10, sitting in my garage on a table.
They can't catch Bigfoot if they're in your garage.
That's exactly right. Unless Bigfoot's in my freaking garage, and I don't think he's freaking there.
And he's not. So anyway,
no. Is anything else on you? Okay.
I have something to talk about for 2 minutes. So this ship hit this bridge right in Baltimore.
Yes.
The Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Yes.
I think it's what it's called. And I think Biden explained how he actually took a train across the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which there are no train tracks on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. So once again, nobody called him out as a liar, but he is a liar. Anyway, so we have this boat that hits this bridge, right?
Yeah.
6 days prior to this boat crashing, the CEO of the company that owned that ship, died when her Tesla went off the road into a lake and she drowned.
Dang.
So, number one, I don't trust Teslas because they're autonomous driving vehicles, and really it shouldn't drive off into a lake because it knows better. But you think somebody could take control of that and maybe wreck that, and that was on purpose?
Are you talking about the boat, or are you talking about the woman's Tesla, or are you talking about
both? The woman's Tesla.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, are there other instances where people are?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're saying that you not have one under any case for a lot of reasons?
No, I would not have one. That's one reason. And who is the sister of the CEO that died? The CEO that died.
Yeah.
Who's her sister?
No idea.
Mitch McConnell's wife.
Wow. That's a small world.
It's kind of weird, isn't it? And so we are a little delayed. So we, instead of having this last week, they came out with the black box, of the ship.
Yeah.
2 minutes are gone of all the data right before the ship crashed.
How does that happen?
It's not supposed to happen. It's got dual backup. Power should stay powered. Just disappeared. Never got it.
Was there? I thought I read today or yesterday that there was some boat that almost hit a bridge in New York or something.
Yeah, that was over the weekend, and they got it stopped. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know I thought we were, I didn't know we were in bridge crashing season just yet. I thought bird flu was next.
Bird flu probably is next because election's coming. But all these things you tell me make me feel like that the government knowing about Bigfoot prior to my previous beliefs may not be that big of stretch. Because I believe that, I know you believe, and I shouldn't speak for you. I believe that there's people that believe that Bigfoot exists in government and have an idea, but there's not some widespread conspiracy to keep the public from knowing about Bigfoot.
I honestly don't think it takes a wide expanding conspiracy. I think it takes very compartmentalized 3 or 4 people that might know something. That's it. That's all it takes.
All right. Well, maybe you got somebody we can ask about that, whether or not they think that happened.
Yeah, exactly. So we have another one of the young guns on this week. We've had on Jonathan Easley. He's a young gun. He was great. He was on our episode last week. We have another one coming on next week. And when I say young guns, I'm talking about people in their 20s. I started in my 30s. People in their 20s that are going after this creature and trying to get proof. And we're going to bring Eli Watson on the show. Eli is from California. I think you're in California. Is that true, Eli?
Yes, sir. Southern California.
Okay. All
Good
right.
to see
You're
you
out in Southern California. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You are on Small Town Monsters. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm a director and kind of producer for Small Town Monsters.
And how old are you?
I'm 25.
25, man. He is ahead of the game.
Right.
Exactly. Me and I got involved in Bigfoot I was probably, I don't know, 50. I'd messed with it my whole life, but
you weren't 50 when you got involved. I'll just tell you that right.
Yeah, you were in your 30s. I was 40.
Yeah. Exactly.
So he's really ahead of us.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe he'll be that generation that's going to solve it.
Hey, don't discount us old guys just yet, Russ.
It's not over yet.
It's not over yet. Because here's what's happening. Us older guys finally are in a spot where we can buy cooler toys and neater stuff. So we can throw money at it. And hopefully the more money we throw at it, maybe the more evidence is going to give us.
Maybe today when I was in the woods, Bigfoot, which seen me out there a million times in this particular park, looks at me and says, he's walking a little slower. He's not quite as fast. And it feels a little sorry for me. And maybe it's just going to step out.
Right.
Maybe.
But what about you? Eli, you just laughed when we said maybe this is going to be the generation that solves the because I guess you can already tell at 25 that this is a big ask to solve the Bigfoot mystery.
It's a big ask, that's for sure. I'm split in a number of different ways. One, I don't want to be the guy who discovers Bigfoot. I really don't, because then it's like, especially if I were to discover Bigfoot at such a young age, like if I discover it before I turn 30, that's it for the rest of my life. I'm forever the guy who found Bigfoot. Nothing I ever do would ever top that. You know what I mean? It's like
it's all downhill.
It's all downhill from there. It's like, why would I want to do that?
I'm just going to throw this out there because this is Masters Week. If I were to win the Masters, I wouldn't give my golf clubs up. I'd just keep playing. I'd try to win again. So I think that's how big we need to look at Bigfoot, right? Win once, we got to win again.
So you're going to send them on to the Loch Ness Monster or Mothman?
No. We're just going to conquer
every cryptid after
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
We're just going to keep collecting Bigfoot. That's what we're going to.
He'll be the Jane Goodall, and it'll be he'll tell us more about Bigfoot once he's already discovered Bigfoot. However he does that, or whatever it happens to be. But
don't think just because if you find him and you do it that you got to be over, because we need it.
Yeah,
we need to prove this to everyone.
Listen, Eli, Brad and I, when we had on
Darby
Orcutt, to talk about the study, we told him that we wanted front row seats when they came out and announced it, because Brad and I want to be there with shirts on that say "I told you so," and then to be able to tell everybody wants us on TV to go on and say, "Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I want to talk a little bit about this, but I want to make sure that I tell you, I told you so, and I've always been right." we're not too small or too large to be able to say that we were right and we want everybody for all the grief that we've taken over the years about Bigfoot.
Exactly. So, your daily life. Bigfoot every day. I know you're Small Town Monster, so you're a producer, director. What are you doing? Just concentrate on Bigfoot, or are you doing all kinds of
Legos every day?
That's my daily life right there. Those are my Legos. No, most days are spent right where I'm at, actually editing. A large chunk of my job is editing. So I'll go out and I'll film for, shoots will range from 3 days to 2 weeks at a time. I think the longest shoot I ever did was in Alaska for 17 days. And then I come home and I edit all that footage. and I do. Oh, am I choppy?
No, you're good. You're good.
No, okay. I was asking if I am.
Or
you are. Are we all good?
Yeah, we're all good.
Are we? I just want to make sure.
You know how my internet is out here in the country. No, you're good.
We're good.
Okay.
All right. No, go ahead.
So I do a number of things for Small Town Monsters. So I do a lot of YouTube content. Right now, I'm currently doing a series called Bigfoot: The Road to Discovery, which focuses on the Olympic project in Washington State. But I also do feature-length films as well. So last year, I put together the Dogman Triangle, which features Aaron Deese and Shannon LeGros kind of investigating Dogman in Texas. And I'll be premiering one here shortly at Monster Fest 2 at the end of June in Canton, Ohio, called Cursed Waters. And that's all about Ogopogo, the lake monster.
Yes, we interviewed, what was her name, Brad, with Ogopogo?
She wasn't that great of an interview. She wasn't that great of an interview.
Oh my!
I'm sorry, but if there's people that will convince me of something, I'm sorry, I was not convinced, so I don't remember. I could look it up. If she listened to this, I'm sorry, but I don't even know what your name was.
Wow.
Do you remember? I mean, what?
I don't remember her name. I remember she was nice to us.
She was nice.
She lives in, that's it, Katie Elizabeth.
Yep, Lake Monsters, Katie Elizabeth. Yep.
Yeah. Did you meet her, Eli?
I have never met her. I have talked to her a couple of times. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot
going on there.
Yeah, Brad and I had no idea that, sometimes we get a guest that we probably shouldn't have on for various reasons, and we didn't know that we shouldn't have various people on.
That wasn't in the red flag folder when we get our yearly show notes. Here, these people you should not have on for various reasons, and we didn't know that was on the list.
Well,
that's what it is.
For my Ogopogo documentary, I didn't interview her because I think she's up in the Northeast talking about Champ, Lake Champlain monster. Ogopogo's out in British Columbia, so there's a totally different set of researchers out there, like people like John Kirk, if you know John Kirk.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, so I guess that's the big name. The big name is John Kirk. So
we used to come to Ohio a lot for the Ohio conference, but I haven't seen John around for a while.
Was he always dressed in black?
Yeah, always in dress, has the British accent, and would go
him and his wife. I think maybe him and his wife are always together or something.
His wife is an Indian of descent, Winona, if I remember right.
Yep.
Very sweet lady.
Yep.
So, John, if you're listening, hey, we miss you and love to see you sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's dropped off the scene lately, though.
So you've done quite a few episodes of Bigfoot, lake monsters, whatever. What was your favorite?
I think maybe the second episode of my first solo series. My first solo series I started last year. It was called Mysteries and Monsters, and it ran for 9 episodes, and it's going to come back for season 2.
Wow.
But the second episode is It's called the Mountain of God UFO Cult. And it's about this UFO cult that I discovered that had existed in my hometown back in the 1950s. And it has ties with Kenneth Arnold, the very first kind of where the term flying saucer comes from Kenneth Arnold's report all the way up in Washington. And it has lots of connections to like the occult scene in Los Angeles in the 1930s and immigration from Canada and the 49th parallel. It's definitely a wild story. And I think one of my favorite moments as a researcher was, I mean, I discovered this place. There was this cult that lived on this compound. That's what all the documents pointed to. And no one knew really where it was. And me and a guy named Vince Izunza discovered that there was some sort of connection to this big oak tree that they planted back in the day that might still be there. And so we found the biggest oak tree we could find on Google Maps in the supposed area where it was supposed to be. And I went there in person, and lo and behold, about a mile hike up this mountain, there's this old compound that's run down, and it matched the descriptions that was in the documents that we were finding. And that was super exciting. And I mean, that place is 20 minutes away from where I live. And I never knew. I mean, I grew up out here. I never knew it was there, you know?
No one's there any longer, correct?
Oh, no, it's all decrepit and run down. And it's probably from some of the graffiti, like a makeout spot for people who have discovered it, but they don't know what it is.
So you get out in the woods and you do the research. You try to find these things. But that would be very interesting. And an alien, would you say a UFO cult?
Yeah.
Of the mountain.
They believe
cults are pretty intriguing anyway.
Yeah. So from what we know is that they believed that Noah's Ark was built into, or was buried underneath this mountain here in Temecula, California. Why they thought that, I don't know.
Not in Turkey?
No, here in California. And they were digging mines down in there. And that's something I searched for too, but I couldn't find. But several of the people who were part of the cult were mining engineers. So it makes sense.
How does that conversation go? Because they got to have a leader, right? A cult. Every cult's got a leader.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So this guy, what's he do? Does he go to a local bar or go to a local mining place? Say, you know what? I got this place up here. You know, I need some miners. I think the Noah's Ark. As soon as somebody says Noah's Ark's buried in Southern California, I'm out. I mean, I'm out. So
he was a Presbyterian pastor here in Temecula.
Okay.
And so, I'm not sure what the goal was. He wrote some books that talked about how the space visitors would come and visit him on top of the mountain there. Okay. And that they were teaching him some sort of codes of universal law and order and whatnot. And I'm not sure how. That's the thing. He wrote like 12 books, but we've only been able to find one. So how everything ties together, I'm not really sure. And the even crazier part about all of it is that none of the people in the cult had children. So when they died, that was it. Really? There's like nobody alive knows who any of those people were. So it's just bizarre.
Like I said, that is very odd because I still don't understand. Some cult leaders I can relate get on to that train sometime. Yeah, I mean, there's some guys that got some pretty good, they're silver tongue and they got, I'm sure they're
charismatic.
They got a pretty good, they got a good spiel, but we're gonna dig underground for an ark. Anyway, that's just my thought.
I mean, there's a lot of things that you could convince me of, like somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, they have those, I don't know if tillings is the right word, where apparently something dug and you can see where, these piles are. I don't know what's all that about, but I could see where people could say something like that. Pilates and Tom Powell talk about that stuff in Edges of Tom's book. But I mean, the Ark, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not sure I can get behind the Ark.
Yeah, I can't get behind that either.
I don't know. I have no idea.
If that's the case, why don't we have elephants in North America, right?
It's one of those mysteries. There's still more to dig up on it. And that episode I put together was about 4 years worth of research in 1 hour.
Crap.
And
Really?
it's like, what will the next 4 years uncover about that? I don't know. Maybe we'll have answers about how he convinced people. Because as of right now, I don't know. We don't know. There's not enough information. So,
I mean, on a micro scale, you have that all across the country every week, right? There's all these different religions, all these different denominations, and they're all convinced of something by someone. Some right, some wrong.
Sure.
I'm not judging whoever. I'm just saying, it's really not an uncommon thing. But what the uncommon thing is that when you exist out by yourself, you have some type of commune, as opposed to the rest of us. All of us are going to church on Sunday or whatever it happens to be, and it looks and acts and sounds very similar.
Mm-hmm.
What about your favorite place for Bigfoot that you went?
It would probably be Alaska.
Yeah. How's anybody supposed to compete with Alaska?
Now, was that the episode? I think that was one of the highest viewed episodes of Small Town Monsters, right? That was the one with the airline pilot that had the Bigfoot at his place or whatever. And now, so you were up there for 17 days. Did you see anything happen up there?
No, we were at that cabin, I think, for 9 days, and then we split the time somewhere else in Alaska. But when we were there, we did not see anything. I think the most dramatic night, well, there's a bit of a story to it, but basically there's that cabin that he built out there. And so he bought that piece of property. He built that cabin himself that was right next to the shore. And then they kind of worked in a path to this kind of overlook that looked out over the bay. And there was a ring there, like a fire ring there. And so we would go up there and kind of just hang out. And one night we were hearing these rocks come down from the ridge above us and break through the trees and then land into the water below. So these rocks were like flying, they weren't rolling down the hill. They were breaking through the tree branches above us. So the next day we got the idea to kind of go up all the way up on top of the ridge and see what was going on up there. And there was nothing back there really. And I mean, that place is so remote. There was nobody back there. There was like an old bear trap from way back in the day and totally busted, but the whole ground is covered in moss. And so that you guys would know, you guys are woodsmen, that you're not going to find tracks in moss. No. And it was like super spongy. I mean, we weren't even leaving tracks, so you're not going to see anything. But then we got the idea, maybe we should just camp out up here. And so we did. And so that night, and what's so frustrating about it is we set up all these recorders and we got the idea that maybe these things will come in close if we get in our tents and pretend like we're asleep. And I think it worked. But the problem is it starts raining. So you can't really hear anything with the plastic, and it's tinkling all over the tarp. But we did hear knocks getting closer to us. And then the craziest thing is, I heard boom, 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 bah! Boom, 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 boom. And it happened like off to my left. And I could feel the ground moving, and it felt like it was like if I had popped out of my tent, I felt like I would have seen one right there. Really? And that was one of those things like, do we want to pop out of the tent and risk scaring these things, or do we want to let them come in? And we ultimately decided to try to let them come in, but nothing really significant happened after that. I mean, that was just so close and so visceral. But the next night we camped up there again, I think, and it didn't rain. And so I wonder if the rain has something to do with it, or maybe it was double factor, because the second night we camped up, we just walked up there and camped, and we took a shortcut. The first night we went up there, we were up there exploring, making noise, doing a whole lot of stuff. And then it started raining. And I wonder if those combined factors was like we were stirring up something, raising the curiosity, drawing them in. Because the second night we just went up there and went to bed. And I don't think that was effective really at all. So
do you think that's the closest you've been to getting good evidence, that night, or have you've had other opportunities, you think?
we've had other opportunities. It's always hard because
it's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, because I think sometimes we almost get greedy, because you're right. You theoretically could have got out there and maybe got something.
Yeah.
But we always want a little bit more.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that sometimes, it's like I remember Matt was talking. He was on a expedition. I think it was in New Mexico or something. And literally there was a Bigfoot, and a guy pulled out a freaking flashlight, and there was a Bigfoot, and the guy pulled up a big white flashlight, and the Bigfoot's gone. And that was the first night of the expedition. Well, guess what happened for the rest of the expedition? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So that guy got greedy and lost. So, in this, you never know what to do, because you don't know. You can't predict anything these things are going to do.
I want to hear about the other experiences that you had that you feel like you had something close.
Yeah, I'll tell 1 second. I just wanted to bounce off of what Brad just said. Is you can't predict anything these things are going to do, and that's the main struggle, right? Is like, why do you set out game cams right before hunting season so you can see where the deer are going to be? And that's the eternal struggle with Sasquatch research, is we can't predict what these things are going to do with any sort of reliability. So we don't know where they're going to be. We don't know what they're going to do. And I think as Sasquatch researchers, our job now is to try to start identifying patterns. Where do these things hang out and when? And I think, there's some research being done like that, like in the Olympic Project and at Cliffs Museum, they're doing work like that. And I think they're starting, after years and years and years of work, they're finally starting to find little patterns that they can start putting together. But
I mean, Russ does that. He's got his calendar, and he goes to parks that have had sightings in the past. And he was very close. What'd you do? You missed the one with the Snickers bar size salamanders. You missed that by a day? When they should,
I was in the woods during the day. There was a sighting at night that night, and they were parked where I was parked.
Yeah.
But I was there based on the fact of a history of sightings there at the exact time relating to that. And so I do that with witnesses and with sightings that way too. I'm going back repetitiously to the same place at the same time, trying to reproduce the same type of things, which I'm doing the daytime because I just don't really see where no one cares at night. You know what I mean? Like there's some pretty good thermal footage out there, and no one's compelled. I mean, the Bigfoot community is compelled, but scientists aren't compelled.
No,
they're not even interested in it. So, I mean, one of us is going to have to be at the right place at the right time for a reason, because, we know that they're visiting this particular park. Like Paul Freeman, we were talking about him last week, he was there in the blues at that place, that particular pond, because it was droughty that time of the year and they were always going there to get water. And we need dozens of places like that people identify across the country that we can go to. And then, then maybe we can go on one trips and falls or dies of old age and we get lucky there somehow.
Right. Yeah.
And honestly, I think maybe we're in a better position today than we were 20 years ago with the internet, with sharing of information. Russ has his stuff on a written calendar, which I don't understand that whole thing. It needs to be digital so that you can
I do
pass
have
that along.
when I come out of the
young
woods
guns.
today, I use an iPad Pro,
Okay.
and I sit down and write, where I was today, what I
Okay.
thought, what my impressions were. But you're right, there is a calendar that I keep. One that's a visual one of all the sightings from West Virginia and Southeast Ohio and Eastern Kentucky, the time and whatnot.
Well,
We don't have enough data.
Right. So,
Mhm.
but you're getting that data, and you're going to need to pass that data on to the next group of people.
So you're assuming I'm not going to get the job done, is what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm assuming.
Man, you've been riding me like a show dog these last couple months.
Well, anyway, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
Anyway, if your friends can't make fun of you, who can, right?
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
But we have all these guys, Eli and Jonathan, and there's a lot of them. There's 10 or 20 of them, young guns across the nation, are following us.
Right.
And maybe the way that we've looked at it all along is wrong. I mean, I'm going to tell you that sometimes I think, I'm a woodsman, I've hunted and I've trapped my whole life, and I'm a master naturalist and all that stuff. And I'm like, maybe it's not about that. Maybe it's just strictly a technology thing that someone's going to have the right technology, and they may not even be someone that's in the woods ever. They just are good at technology, and someone puts them in the right place. But I think that the biggest thing is time. People are just not out there the way that we need to be out there, like a Diane Fossey or, any of the scientists through history that have been there, that they're getting paid to be in these locations on site where other people cannot go for long periods of time. The BFRO is trying to reproduce that a number of times over the year in different locations. They try to do it in Kentucky. They try to do it up there in British Columbia somewhere, in Olympic Peninsula, I think.
Yeah.
And, they just haven't had the right people.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's even myself, even though I'm young and whatnot, it's, people look at me and look at what I do, and they think I'm always out in the woods. And it's like, no, I'm out in the woods for 2 weeks, and then I'm at home for 2 months editing. It's like,
right.
So, because that, looking for Bigfoot is fun, but editing is what puts the food on my table. So,
Right.
And that's just the reality. All of us, it would have to be like some sort of millionaire's kid who was into this stuff and was willing to put in all that time and money into it. And that's not any of us.
The problem you get with that is if you got a millionaire son, he ain't spending nights in the freaking woods in a tent. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And you really need to choose a place where, it's one of two things. Like, say it's in Ohio where there's not that much woods, and the Bigfoot have gotten at least a little comfortable with being around people because they've had no choice. And have learned to rely on human resources. Or you have to choose a place in the Pacific Northwest or maybe parts of Appalachia that are very, very remote and hard to get to, and miles between roads, where you're trying to find those virgin Bigfoot, the ones that no one's messed with, but you can't go in there doing what we all do right now and bang on trees and carry thermals. You have to have a legitimate plan for getting evidence and knowing what you're after. We always talked about Brad and I and our friend Darren and Frank and Sipley, and we were going to go in the Cranberry region of West Virginia, the largest wilderness area in the eastern coast, and go in there. And there's maybe 11 miles in between roads. They're very steep hills. People get lost in there all the time, and people disappear. And we always said that we were going to go in there for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and we were going to come out with all this evidence. And the reality is, everybody has a job, and everybody's busy, and everybody has a family, and it's hard to get that time.
Yeah.
I was talking to Ontario about that recently because, people have children, people have illnesses. There's just all these things come up, and you'll see these promising people come up in Bigfoot, that they're very consumed. You know, there's probably a couple hundred people that are legitimately consumed with Bigfoot across the country that are messing with it every day. They're following stuff all the time, but they still have to pay their bills, like you said, or, you know, get food on the table or have a family or whatever it happens to be. And you'll just see it time and time again that how they dropped. I know I talked to Dr. Kenny Brown. It's in Ohio. Kenny is consumed with Bigfoot, but, you know, now he's a family doctor and, you know, he lives in a great spot for Bigfoot, but it's still hard to get out like you want to get out.
Right.
Right. Or you have like the opposite extreme of that, you know, Renee DeHinden, where his family left him because he was so obsessed with Bigfoot and he ended up living in a trailer all by himself.
Yeah. Golf balls.
Yeah. So you don't, yeah. That's the other thing is like, I'll have bouts where I get really, really obsessed with this.
Okay.
And what's up?
No, go ahead.
And I think this subject will take everything from you if you let it, I think. So you have to draw that line at some point and be like, there's got to be a balance here.
So
I don't know. They're human though, you know, because it's interesting. Like John Green, you know, really compiled the first database, and then when you talk to, you know, they were human. The Horseman, DeHinden, and John Green, and what was the guy, the professor, Grover Krantz.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were still humans, and you hear people talk all the time. Like, for instance, John Green, he was at a place where the Bigfoot were screaming and they were close and all this was going on. And John's like, I gotta get home and stuff, and just left. And you hear that all the time about these researchers that, you know, I mean, they just really weren't out there like you would think. They were humans just like us and dealing with the same issues.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess there is something to be said about, you know, having a life or trying to find balance. I've had times where for years I was very, very consumed and probably in the woods as much as anyone. But I think that I look at some of the other groups, like the guys in the Olympic Peninsula, the Olympic Project, the guys down in the Ouachita Mountains with Area X, the Wood Ape guys, and you have all these people that are working as a team to bounce things off. But the great majority of us are just out there doing their own thing, you know, and I'm one person walking in the woods, and, you know, I may be prone to look at things a certain way because of my background of, you know, I remember one of my friends telling me, quit stomping through the woods, quit looking at your maps and deciding where you're going to walk that day, because I want to cover every creek, then I cover every ridge, then it's every trail, and you have a way of doing things. And how do you know that, you know, like that researcher that was in Africa talking about our game cameras, you know, how do you know that they're in ridges and saddles and flats and creeks? You know, maybe they only work on those north facing hillsides at 20 degrees. You know, we just don't know, as you said, Eli, nothing that, I mean, I think we know more than we did and we have a good idea about things, but, you know, we can't predict anything with reliability at this point.
Yeah.
And do they want to play? I mean, sometimes, you know, they'll interact with people a lot of times in Ohio, but in West Virginia and some of the other Appalachian states, it's chance encounters. And most of the time they have so much room that they can just move back away from people.
Right. I think that's the same anywhere you get or anywhere you go, at least in my experience in Washington too. You know, it's like, I think Washington's the place where I've been out Bigfooting the most. And it's always the same. It's chance encounters or researchers going to spots where there's lots of chance encounters, you know, and having an experience of them of their own. And then it's always something quick, and then they just disappear out in the woods. You know?
But what is that getting us? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
everybody's after experiences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brad hears me talk about this all the time. There for a long time, I quit going out at night because night was just for experiences. No one was getting any evidence at night. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you know, where is that getting us? Where is that pushing the envelope any farther with Bigfoot research? You know, for us to go out there and, you know, it's fun to go with our friends and we're out there and we're sitting around fire talking about this. And most of my friends are millionaires and rich that are in Bigfoot, and we're talking about how to make money and things like that. And it's a great time. And I love that time with those guys, and I don't get enough of it. But, is it really pushing Bigfoot forward?
Who are you hanging out? Who are you hanging out with in the woods?
And now, these guys all have thermals, not thermals, but thermal drones.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a better chance that, we can all,
Get some good
uncover
evidence.
something that way.
So you do more than just Bigfoot. I saw you like your lake monsters and things like that.
Yeah. No.
We had, like I said, the earlier experience I had with lake monsters was not exciting to me.
Sure.
Changed my mind. Was it exciting to you? Was it something that you could actually kind of, with Bigfoot, I can get my teeth into it because there's other reports. I've seen them and I know all this stuff. Lake monsters, I don't know so much. What's your thought on that? Because I think I looked on your Facebook page or something, and you'd done a pretty cool, actually, it was a pretty cool graphic of a lake monster eating a boat or something. So
yeah, that's the poster for the upcoming movie Cursed Waters.
Okay.
That's about Ogopogo. That'll be out in late June. But yeah, so lake monsters are a difficult thing. Because as opposed to Bigfoot research, which already takes a lot of money, lake monster research takes even more money because you have to have a boat,
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, I'm not sold on, there's a million lake monsters out there, but how many of them are real? I don't think very many of them. I think Champ might be real, and I think Ogopogo might be real. Loch Ness Monster, I don't know enough about. What I know about Champ and Lake Champlain is, and Ogopogo as well, Lake Okanagan up there, you have two primary sources of food, which is salmon. You got river inlets letting in salmon. And then you're talking about an animal that is potentially 20 feet long, 30 feet long, in a lake that is 90 miles long. It's and deep. I mean, Lake Champlain isn't super deep, but what's interesting about Lake Champlain is that it's basically the remaining portion of an inland sea. And so the entire surrounding area all used to be ocean. And there's remnants of whale bones in the surrounding valley. And so you're talking about a potential evolutionary offshoot of something like that.
A plesiosaur. Everybody says plesiosaur. So
Everyone says plesiosaur. I'm not convinced of that either, because a plesiosaur probably breathed the air.
Right.
And
they got to come up quite often, or they even get up on the banks and things like that, which I've heard reports of them being on the banks and sliding in the water.
Champ is interesting because it has that, but I shouldn't have started with Champ because I know less about Champ than I do Ogopogo.
Okay, so
Ogopogo, Lake Okanagan is one of the deepest lakes I think in the world. It's like 2,000 feet deep.
Holy crap! Where's that?
At? British Columbia.
Okay,
so just north of Washington State, a little north of Vancouver.
2,000 feet.
Yeah, and then I think that's just to the sediment. It keeps going deeper than that. And then it's kind of a long, narrow lake. So it's 90 miles long, 3 miles wide. But the amount of Ogopogo is probably one of the most documented lake monsters in the world. There's more photographs and videos of Ogopogo than any other lake monster in the world. Say what?
I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Now you know. And the tradition of something being in the lake stems even further back than, you have reports from early settlers in the 1850s talking about this thing, but then you have the native culture there with multiple tribes talking about something being in the lake, and so they call it they refer to it as a spirit of the lake. And what I find most interesting about Ogopogo is that it's not a plesiosaur. It's actually like a long serpentine-like animal.
Sturgeon?
No, not quite. Well, here's the thing about sturgeon. According to the government of Canada, there are no sturgeon in Lake Okanagan. According to the locals, there are. And I'm going to go with the locals on that one.
Right.
So,
According to Florida Fish and Wildlife, there's no, mountain lions in
right.
parts of Florida either. So,
Right. But this is something distinctly different from the sturgeon.
okay.
And I mean, with the amount of reports, I mean, there's got to be at least a report every single month out
Really?
there of something in the water. And there's increased sightings during the salmon runs. So early in the year, like February, March, and then October when the salmon run again. Those increased sightings. So to me, that points to a living animal. And then less sightings in the summer when there's so many people out on the water with their motorboats and out there fishing and doing all this, that, and the other, which to me also makes sense. So I think, I don't know, I'm excited. You should watch this movie. I'll see about getting you a link because I think it might convince you. It's different. You know, the natives have a very spiritual approach to this thing, but they also have a very spiritual approach to a lot of different animals.
Right.
So,
I mean, that's a lot of our folklore comes from Native Americans, and they seem to be right about that. So why would they not be right about this?
Well, what's interesting is the natives believe that there's like 40-something lakes in the interior of British Columbia, and each single one has reports of lake monsters that look a lot like Ogopogo,
Really?
And the natives believe that all the lakes in the interior of British Columbia are connected through underwater caves, underwater systems. And while that hasn't been proved, there is some evidence, at least in Lake Okanagan, where they've sent, on Ogopogo expeditions, where they've sent divers into these underwater caves and have detected water pressure coming out of these caves.
So that means that obviously there's water coming from somewhere, right?
Right. So could that possibly be passage to different lakes, and that makes you wonder. It's like, well, how many of these things could there be? Maybe they're not always in the lake. Maybe they're not always in Lake Okanagan. Maybe they're in different lakes. It's interesting. I guess, I don't know. I guess the question comes up too is like, where are the bodies? That's the same question as Sasquatch, right?
Come on. I mean, you got a 2,000 foot, deep lake, and a fish dies. Is it really going to go up to the surface? Probably not. Is it going to wash the shore? Maybe not. Probably depends on the type of bladder. Depends on what it's made out. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. Not everything that dies in the ocean floats to the surface.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like Bigfoot, just the rarity of the animal. I think if something like that does exist, that's the problem.
Yeah. It is absolutely very rare. Anything else? I mean, lake monsters and Bigfoot, those two things. I mean, we've had guys on here talking about, Crocodile Man and Pig Boy and, all kinds of stuff. Nothing like that.
No, I personally try to stick to things that I think are real.
Okay.
There seems to be this sect of cryptozoology people that lump in all this folklore into it, like Pigman and things like that. I'm sorry if you believe that's real. I don't, but it's like it's folklore, and it's interesting as a piece of folklore, but there's not really any substantial evidence to think that there is a species of pig-like humanoids running around, versus things like lake monsters, versus things like Sasquatch that have a historical record, predating even, like, I think Matt Pruitt talks about this in his book. And this for me, like, blew my mind when I read it, was with Sasquatch, what you have is two different cultures describing the same thing. You have early settlers and you have the Native American tribes. And they're describing this upright humanoid ape in the woods of North America. And so at that point, it's not a matter of belief, because obviously the early settlers and the Native Americans did not believe the same thing. They did not have the same religion. So it's obviously not that, which means that it points to something objectively being there. And I think we see that with Ogopogo. We see that a little bit with Champ. But we don't see that with Pigman. We don't see that with Mothman even. And Mothman might be something else entirely. It might be something spiritual,
right.
But
if you ask Alex Jones, he will tell you about the pig-human chimeras that are being produced by the government and special underground labs. But anyway,
I think that's different. I don't know if those would qualify as cryptids. It's like, so.
Right. It depends on if they got out, I guess. I don't know.
Right. I guess so. People say that about, Chupacabra, right? It's a government experiment gone rogue. I guess I did a movie on Chupacabra.
And what was your conclusion?
That it's not
dog?
real.
Okay.
I don't know. It's
isn't basically a chupacabra is just a small, four-legged animal that's got teeth and big claws and it eats chickens or something?
Probably a mangy coyote or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I assumed it was.
See, I don't know. I don't know about all those things. There's a lot of different animals that have been called chupacabra over the years. And I think what it boils down to is what we picture in our head of chupacabra is, and what it does. When you boil it down, there's never been an actual report of a chupacabra doing what they claim it does. No one's ever seen one of these mangy coyotes drinking the blood of another animal.
Yeah.
No one's seen that reptilian, alien-looking creature sucking the blood of an animal. No one's ever seen it happen, So it's like, then, and there's plenty of other natural phenomenon that could explain why an animal would die and it would seemingly have no blood in it. And so
aliens?
I think, say what?
Aliens?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were going to say, but
sometimes like sick dogs will kill an animal and drink their blood to get the iron because they need that. And then
I thought about that.
And then you talk about there's still leftover blood. So they would lap up the blood. So there would be no blood on the scene. There would be some clean puncture marks. And then whatever blood's left over.
You got to think there's not a lot of blood in an animal like that anyway. As compared to a human.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Right, Russ?
The thing that cracks me up about the chupacabra thing is those guys that are running around with like chain link fence around them like this. They're running around. Like, have you ever seen that on the internet? You can Google and find it. Like people are when there's a chupacabra sighting, you'll have people that have chain link fence and they have it. They're walking inside this little chain link fence, like it's just surrounding their body. People are crazy, man. This cracks me up.
People are crazy.
Of course, there's people watching the Bigfoot show saying these people are crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And are they wrong?
I think they're wrong, but how you supposed to think that someone else, if you're weird, then how you supposed to judge someone else and say, well, I don't think I'm weird, but I think that I'm eccentric, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't like the term, like when they say, what do you do? Like, I don't like Bigfoot researcher. I haven't really found a word that I like that describes what I do.
Bigfoot enthusiast?
I don't know. I just don't like any of that stuff. I think it sounds weird.
I get two reactions to that because I like to tell people that's what I do. Because what I really do is I'm an editor and I'm a director and I live here in Southern California. Yeah, half of the people you meet do that too. So it's like, how do you stand out? Oh, I'm a Bigfoot researcher. And either people think that's the coolest job in the world or they're more than happy to berate you for doing something so stupid. And it's like, okay, you never can tell, it's like flipping a coin. It's like, I don't know which way it's going to go. So,
yeah.
Thank goodness the show Finding Bigfoot was on for years. And most everybody that's, in their 20s and 30s generally saw at least a couple episodes or at least saw it pop up. So when we say, oh, have you seen that show? Oh yeah, I've seen that a couple times. Like, well, I literally started Bigfooting with Matt Moneymaker. That was my first expedition. He was the leader, and we became friends after that. And so we talk every once in a while still. But people like that puts at least some credibility with us.
Mm-hmm.
If they've never seen the show, then they're like, we don't care. Then you just know they're just in another camp and just leave them alone.
Yeah.
I think we've got to really fight to make sure we don't lose our curiosity. That we don't forget that it's fun and why we do it. I was thinking today I was driving out to that park, and I was maybe a mile from the park in this hollow in West Virginia that there's probably not another road for several miles and steep mountains behind it. And these people have this concrete Bigfoot out in their front yard that they've painted by hand. It's like 5 feet tall. And I thought, I need to stop and just ask them, you've seen Bigfoot, or, for all I know, Bigfoot's coming down every night and eating in their backyard, and they're sitting back there in their lawn chairs watching it here in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Right.
So, let's not be afraid to have fun with it, and, maybe ask some other questions.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're wrapping up here. Any words, anything you want to say? This is the, from the what do you got to pimp out? You got your website, Facebook. What do you got? Instagram? You trying to sell anything? What do you got?
I guess just keep an eye out. Small Town Monsters. I'm going to be posting some videos up here pretty regularly. You can check out Bigfoot, The Road to Discovery, which is my personal favorite series I've put together. And then I'm going to be starting one here later this month, so keep an eye out for that. And then I guess the other big thing is Monster Fest 2. That's Canton, Ohio. That's the big Small Town Monsters kind of convention. Are you going to? It's June 29th, I believe. Are you going, Russ?
I don't know. I've never gone.
I did not go to the first one. Seth did ask me to go. I have no idea about this one.
Oh, okay. Well, you should go
next week. So
you got something you're going to be doing, or what, Russ?
Yeah, I'm with Matt Pruitt next week. We're doing
on June 29th.
Oh, I have no idea. Who's in June? What's in June? I have no idea.
Monster Fest 2 is in June.
Okay, I'm on vacation the second week of June or first week of June, but I don't know about the last week of June.
So that's on a Saturday. It's the last Saturday in June. It's the Qatar F1 race. So I'm going to put that on here. This is, what was that? You said it was what is that?
Fest 2.
Monster Fest 2.
Okay. Yeah. Who else is going to be there?
We got Ken Gerhard, Lyle Blackburn, Stan Gordon. We got Astonishing Legends is going to be there. Hold on, let me pull it up. Let me just pull it up, and I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you everybody is going to be there. Right. If you go to smalltownmonsters.com, it'll tell you everything you need to know.
All right.
Well, hopefully. Hopefully. Hold on.
Yeah, because I thought that was a pretty big deal last year. There was quite a few people there.
It was huge last year. It was actually pretty crazy. So I don't know how many people were there, but there was quite a few. All right, here we go. Yeah, so we got Paul Bartholomew, Ken Gerhard, Mike Ann, Tactical Bigfoot Research, Joe Purdue and Ron Lanham are going to be there. Shannon LeGros, myself, Amy Boo, Jeremiah Byron, Lyle Blackburn. Yeah, the regulars, I guess.
Okay.
Sounds
like maybe Russ Jones and Brad Kennan.
Maybe. Who knows? Who's to say?
Because that's what's crazy. Last year we announced all these people coming, but a bunch of people. I mean, Don Keating showed up last year. Not Ron. What's his name? Robert Morgan showed up last year out of the blue. It was like that. I mean, everyone's welcome. And so, I mean, even if you're not being announced, it would be great to see you guys there.
Well, it's in Ohio. So, Ohio is a big place for all this stuff.
And it's not
Well,
that far from us, Russ.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Come on.
We should go. We should go. We could visit the Pro Football Hall of Fame while we're there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Same town. There you go.
Same time.
Hey, well,
All
you
right.
know, I have not seen you since we were in the woods together in West Virginia last year, and I hope I get to see you again soon.
Me too. It was really hot that day.
Oh, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Right.
So thanks for taking time, my friend.
Hey,
All right.
thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. Thanks, sir. All right.
Yep.
All right.
I'll tell you a funny story. It's you know, I'm used to living and traveling these steep hills in West Virginia, and I do it all the time. And when I had the small town monster guys with me, Shade and I started up some mountain, and it is steep and took a while to get up there. And when we got to the top, I was standing up there waiting, and Shade was just staring at all the small town monster people like they were about 10 minutes behind down the mountain. And he's looking at him and looking at me like, what's taking them so long?
Well, I might have been with them, so don't make fun of us old fat guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you get used to wherever you live, you know what I mean?
Yep. All right.
Anyway. BigfootDoc.com.
Yep.
I need to send it out here this week. We're going to do a question and answer here, and we'd love for some of the listeners to email us or reach out on Facebook and give us some questions. I'll be posting something about that.
Yeah, absolutely. wideopenresearch@gmail.com. Send us. I know we got some guys that always send us emails. I do pass those along to Matt and to Russ and everybody.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that. Yeah, definitely send us some questions. We'd love to be able to answer them.
Yeah. And that's all I got, man.
All right. I guess we're out of here then, aren't we?
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Later.